Welcome back to Imagine If. If you are new to this channel, sit back, relax, and be ready to put your thinking caps on. I will be giving you 4 short, scary paranormal stories today. Some of the stories will be true, and some will be false. Do you think you can separate your reality from your imagination? To do so, you must be willing to dive deep into the world of the unknown and unexplained. Again, some of these stories are true, and some are completely made up. Are you ready to play? Sometimes our minds can create illusions appearing real. For example, our first story today, the late night office worker. I'm a very respected lawyer in the Denver area. I had been living in the area for about 8 years or so after moving here right after I graduated. I took this job making over 80 grand a year. That sure beats the $7 an hour I was being paid back when I was working in college. Anyways, I was working late last night and still not sure exactly what happened. It was about 9 p.m. or so last night, and it was a terrible snowstorm. I could hear the wind gusts sweeping by my office. As I began to wrap things up, locking all the doors and setting the security alarm at the office, the weirdest thing started to happen. It started with the coffee maker that was right outside the women's bathroom. I started the coffee machine like normal as I was finishing up the last email to my last client. I had 3 miles to drive home in the snowstorm, and I needed all the caffeine I could get. As I smelled the coffee, I began to come more and more awake, and then I realized I forgot to send a fax to our bank. As I went to grab the cup of coffee, I was confused, dumbfounded. The coffee machine was not on. Not only was it not on, it was completely unplugged and not filled with water or even coffee grounds. I just don't understand. I clearly started the machine. There's no doubt about it. I then started the coffee machine all over again. I also filled the coffee grounds and water and started all over again. It was ready to go. But when I plugged the coffee maker up into the outlet, all of the lights in the office went completely out, except for my office where I was seeing the email. As I stood up, I looked into the office. I saw a woman in a white dress in my office, staring out into the window at the snowstorm. She had long brown hair and looked like she may have been attending a wedding or something like that. I shouted several times, "Can I help you, ma'am? Hello? Can you hear me?" Then she turned around and looked at me. She had piercing, lime green eyes and a grin on her face that gave me goosebumps. I screamed at her and asked her, "How in the hell did you get inside this office? Where did you come from? What do you want?" She began to laugh hysterically and began rocking her head back and forth. She then stopped mid-laugh and stared me directly into my eyes. And she then looked up at the ceiling. As she raised her head up, I could see what appeared to be a large, deep cut across the top of the neck. I immediately ran into the woman's bathroom and locked the door, and I tried calling the police. And then I remembered that, unfortunately, our office building had no reception outside of the actual office. It was pretty quiet outside after I sat in the bathroom for about 2 or 3 minutes. At this point, my heart was racing 1,000 times a minute. The only light that I had was my flashlight on my phone. And as I began to look around with my flashlight, I noticed that this was not the woman's bathroom. It was the basement of the office, which had 4 floors. Unbelievable. Impossible. As I began to explore the basement, I noticed that there was an unfamiliar door. I don't know how else to explain it, but this door has definitely never been here. I opened the door, looking for a way out, and I could smell coffee again. And and I ended up back into the office. Now look, this may sound crazy, but this is physically impossible. How could this have happened? What the hell is going on? And that's when it got even more bizarre, is that the lights in the office were all working fine. The coffee machine was working just fine. I didn't see the woman anymore. She wasn't in the office. And even more bizarre, my phone and all the clocks on the wall said 4 a.m. Where did the time go? What happened to the green-eyed woman? Was this story true or false? Could what have just transpired actually taken place? Or am I here just to mind boggle you? You'll find out at the end of the show. The next story will even be more creepier. Have your thinking caps on. I've been working for the post office now for 11 years. And the story that I'm about to tell you will shock you to the core. So this is the second post office that I've worked for. The first location was on the West Coast, and I now reside in Maryland. Anyhow, last year during the summertime, I went to work like normal. I always have my cup of coffee in the morning before leaving for work, and I always feed and kiss my dog every morning before I left. He was my best friend. His name was Cyrus. He was given to me as a gift for my 23rd birthday. As I went to work that morning, I noticed that something was just off. Something was completely off. My anxiety was ramping. And I've not had anxiety since I was about 13 or 14 years old. As I started to load the truck to make the postal deliveries, I noticed that my route had been changed completely, which, before today, it definitely has never ever been changed. I called my boss to verify that my route had been changed, and she confirmed, yes, this is my new route for today. So my new route contained a route specifically going to deliver to hospitals. I had never delivered anything to a hospital prior to this. As I'm pulling up to the hospital for my first delivery, I got an alert on my phone saying that my home alarm was going off because the back door was open. So I disabled the alarm from my phone. I didn't think too much of it because I'm usually out on my back porch every night. I just left the door open and it's just something that could have been possible. So I grabbed a couple of boxes from the back of the truck, and one of the boxes said Cyrus. This delivery was going to Dr. Cyrus Appleton. So I walked into the building and I get on the elevator. Dr. Cyrus Appleton's office was on the 8th floor. Every time that I hit the 8th floor button, the elevator doors would just simply open and close. So I decided to take the stairway. As I opened the stairway door, I got a phone call from my neighbor, telling me that my house was on fire. I immediately began to panic, because all of my belongings, along with my passport and my safe and pretty much everything that I owned was in that house. Where was I going to live? And what about my best friend Cyrus, my dog? He was trapped in the house, and I don't know what I'd do if I lost him. I immediately ran out of the stairway, jumped into the back of my truck, and sped home as fast as I possibly could. Once I got home, my entire house was engulfed in flames. Everything that I have ever owned was in that house, and it was gone. And Cyrus was gone. After the fireman put out the fire, I noticed that I did not have my cell phone where I left it. At this point, I could not call my boss to let him know what was going on or why I was unable to make this delivery. Plus, all of my contacts were in this phone, unless it dropped out of my pocket at the hospital, but I was moving pretty fast, so I just decided to go back to the hospital to see if it was there. And that's when the craziest thing happened. I pulled up to the hospital in the same exact location as I did before. I got out of the car, and there was my cell phone laying on the ground. I picked up my phone and put it into my left pocket. And I just thought to myself, why not deliver this package since I'm already here? I got out of the car and started walking towards the hospital, but looking at my phone. And that's when I looked up at this hospital that looked 30 or 40 years abandoned. There was no type of electricity, and there was large gates surrounding the building. There were no trespassing signs all over the place, which looked like they had been there a few winters. At this point, I was completely freaked out. I ran back to the truck and threw the boxes in the back. I heard something moving around the back of the truck, so I decided to investigate. The box that was supposed to be delivered to Cyrus Appleton was moving. I opened the box, and I could not believe my eyes. It was my dog, my buddy, Cyrus. He was alive. There he was, healthy, happy, wagging his tail. How did this happen? How did he get back into the car? Was this story true or false? I'll let you know at the end of the show. Hope you're keeping tally. The next story should be very interesting. Mama still hunts our house. So a wee bit of a backstory. Mama passed away almost 7 years ago, and since then she has messed with our electronics, slammed doors, and hid stuff all over the house. So like I just said, she passed away almost 7 years ago, and in that time frame, she had plugged in and blown out a hairdryer, moved my brother's glasses, hiding them from the kitchen to the cupboard board, and had been seen through the kitchen, out the window, into the garden. Slammed doors, and my leg was pulled when I was trying to sleep, but she settled down for a few good years. But in the last 6 months, we believe she had been getting more and more active, with switching the lights and on and off randomly, running and pacing in the hallways and up and down the stairs on separate occasions. And I felt air blown on me before. Now, I know this may sound crazy, but it's true. She gets annoyed when you kick or have a negative reaction to any household appliances. So I guess what I'm really looking for is maybe bring a priest in. Maybe I should bring a priest to come cleanse the house. We think she's trying to tell us something, but we are unsure of what it could be. Whenever she is active, we get this overwhelming sense of fear, like a child afraid of the dark or something. Like if I hide underneath my blanket, I can't be hurt. How do we even know if it's our ma? She wouldn't hurt us, but what if it is? What if it's not? Number 4. When I was 14 years old, me, my friend, and her brothers were asked by her recently elderly past neighbor's son, hope you got all that, to help clean out her house. And he'd pay us cash for helping. Us being teens said, yes, of course. We can always use cash. He gave us a quick run through of the house, which basically means just clean out the entire house and all of its belongings, as the house was going to be sold soon. So my friend and I started upstairs. I went to the woman's bedroom, started boxing up clothes from the dresser. Then I was finished doing that, so it was time to go to the closet. Everything was going well until I pulled out the second to the last chunk of clothes. After I put the clothes down on the bed and turned back to the closet, that's when it happened. An elderly woman walked out of the closet, out of the bedroom door, and vanished. It was not a fast run, it was a very slow walk. I remember vividly her permed white hair, purple pants, white shirt, and a matching purple jacket. I never had ran so fast in my life, even though her presence didn't seem threatening. They were calm. When I came outside to my friend's brother and the woman's son, they all wondered why I was scared, freaked out, and paled out. I explained what happened to them, and the son said that the woman and the outfit I described was his mom, and he was 100% sure. After calming down, I did manage to go back into her room to finish my job, but I did tell her, "Thank you for making your presence known, but I appreciate that if you never did that again." It was the first and only time I've ever seen a spirit. Alright guys, now it's time to see which stories were true and which ones were false. How do you think you scored today? Let's revisit the late night office show. Do you guys think this story was true or was completely made up? The answer is this story was false. It never took place. Or how about the story of the dog Cyrus? Is it possible that Cyrus somehow teleported to be with his owner? Or did my imagination get you guys again? If you thought this story was true, you are correct. This actually took place. What about the story of Mama? I feel as if some people listening to this show today may have had a similar incident happen, but not today. I made the story up. And last but not least, the elderly woman. If you thought this story was true, you are correct. This actually took place. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's show. Be sure to like and subscribe and revisit every Tuesday and Friday for our real versus fake scary stories.